Under the quiet night sky, a tall tower loomed near the edge of the forest. Beside it stood another tower, echoing with agonizing groans. In a room filled with iron chains, a voice echoed out. "Stay conscious, you bastard. I've only just begun. Don't you dare pass out on me." The groans didn't stop. Another dose of stimulant was injected. A blood-curdling scream followed, then blood splattered across the dark chamber. Another voice spoke up. 461 seconds. With this new formula, it lasted a bit longer. As expected, a gifted test subject really is different. Den was chained by both hands. His body was covered in wounds. After the latest injection, he slumped forward, panting heavily. Mage's Tower's Bohem Weller spoke. 461 seconds after administering the 70-second mana artery stimulant. Can we now confirm the magic circle has activated and the immune response has been suppressed? The Tower Master, arms crossed behind his back, smiled with satisfaction. Excellent. Administer the memory-enhancing stimulant next. He looked pleased as he observed his test subject enduring all the experimental drugs injected into his body within the Empire's strongest magic tower. Den gasped, struggling through the agony. "I'm dying." On the table was a triangular glass jar filled with black ants, surrounded by unknown potions. "Why?" An ant climbed up to the lid of the jar. "Good." Forced activation of the stimulant triggered a reaction in his body. Den's eyes bulged, pupils trembling. He clenched his teeth as blood gushed from his mouth. He screamed in despair and agony. The chains rattled, pulled taut from his writhing. "Stop it!" He clenched his fist and yanked hard, blood soaking the restraints. "I'm begging you, stop." The Tower Master clicked his tongue and turned away. "So noisy. Inform me when the experiment is over." "Yes, Tower Master," came the curt reply. Den was exhausted. He fell silent in despair. "Why me?" Blood trickled to the floor, seeping into the cracks. "To die here, in the magic tower I once dreamed of entering." A sharp voice shouted again. "Hey bastard, wake up!" A hand grabbed his hair and yanked his head up. His face contorted in pain. Weller leaned in, grinning. "How does it feel, Den? You have no magic talent whatsoever, yet a few praises about your intelligence were enough to inflate your ego." Weller and the others laughed with contempt. This was why Den's life force and knowledge were being drained in a secret lab. Weller continued, gripping Den's hair tightly. "Go on. Pretend to be smart like you always do." Meanwhile, an ant crawled near the blood-filled floor cracks. "TSK. I bet you can't even pass out in your current state." Den glanced downward. "Hey, are you even listening to me?" Weller followed his gaze. "Are you deaf? What are you looking at?" "What?" He saw the ant trying to escape. "Experiment ants are escaping. Who's in charge of containment? Can't you idiots even handle that?" A voice from the back stammered an apology. "Sorry, sir." Weller stomped on the ant in a fury. "Useless trash." The others scoffed at Den. "Honestly, this guy's no better than a bug. He doesn't even have enough mana to break a single shackle. At least he doesn't resist, makes things easier for us. Thanks to him, we now have an S-class test subject." "Why?" The crushed ant lay in a pool of blood, legs torn from its body. His so-called friend, who once studied abroad thanks to the tower's sponsorship. "I pity Ravelin for having a friend like him." "You're absolutely right," someone else laughed. The ant lay motionless. Den gritted his teeth. "I see now." In a faint voice he muttered. "Rice." The others paused, confused. "Huh. What nonsense are you muttering now?" Den raised his head. His eyes glowed with a terrifying light. He roared. "Shut up. All of you. This is all because I was weak." One of the towers suddenly emitted a powerful surge of purple energy. "Everything began 15 years ago. I grew up in an orphanage without parents. My one wish was to become a great mage. Eventually, I joined the magic tower as a janitor, hoping to study magic. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't become a mage. All because of a level 1 growth cap." Flashback to age 7. Den stood among other children holding magic wands, nervously looking at the compatibility test result in his hand. That test at age 7, it was a death sentence. It meant I had no magical potential. But still, I couldn't give up. He swept the floor while sneakily reading a magic book left on a table. Becoming a mage was my only dream. I secretly read abandoned magic books while doing chores. I memorized the core knowledge of countless tomes from the tower's library. Despite my lack of mana, I had confidence in my intellect. Years passed. One day, someone exclaimed, Den, you're a genius. Hearing that, he blushed and smiled brightly. Eventually, I became a researcher at the Magic Tower. Actually, you're more than a genius. That person continued to flatter him. No ordinary researcher could have come up with this. Even the Tower Master Banrock would acknowledge it. That was when I realized, even I didn't know the extent of my intelligence. It wasn't just talent. It was a level of genius. Thanks, Lucas. I still need to prove this thesis before presenting it. Before he could finish, Lucas interrupted. What? Wait, you mean I'm the first person you showed this to? You haven't told anyone else. He nodded. You're the only one I've shared this with. Lucas spilled a drink over the papers. Yes. Lucas, the only researcher I trusted, acknowledged me. I thought I could finally stay at the tower, not as a janitor but as a scholar. But then he presented my thesis as if it were his own. By the time I realized, it was too late. The thesis had already been handed to the Tower Master. The sun set behind the castle. Please, you must believe me. Den knelt before the Tower Master in a large room. That thesis is mine. It disappeared the day before the presentation. Lucas submitted it under his name. The Tower Master read the paper. His expression darkened. So you're saying you wrote the multidimensional causality theory? If it were the Honorable Bohem Banrock, surely he wouldn't overlook this. Yes, Tower Master. Please, allow me to explain everything from the beginning. Remarkable, the Tower Master interrupted. I never knew such talent existed among our junior researchers. Den's eyes widened in disbelief. The Tower Master placed a hand on his shoulder. If only I hadn't gone to see him that day. His eyes gleamed, and the atmosphere turned ominous. He smiled wickedly. In 2 days, when the moon is eclipsed, come to my lab. If I had fled the tower then, could I have lived a normal life for the next 7 years? They beat him senseless and threw him into a dark, tiny room. That's how I was imprisoned, forced into experiments by the Tower Master. Weller and the others stood by the door, mocking him. Stupid bastard keeps resisting. Tomorrow will increase the intensity. Just wait. By day, I was a janitor. By night, a test subject. They injected me, chanted spells, tortured both my body and mind. They made me draw magic circles to verify theories, inject drugs into my veins, and observe the reactions in my own body. All to create a new elixir. Even if I tried to expose the truth, no one believed me. All I received were threats from the Tower Master, to kill everyone I cared about. He lay on the cold floor, light filtering in through the iron bars. Eyes dazed, body drained. It was over. Inside a narrow space, surrounded by high walls, only I lay there, barely breathing. What else can I do? Sunlight trickled through the leaves outside. In my fading memories behind this wall, I was laughing and playing with a little girl. Ven, hurry. Wait for me. Rovelin, what is this? Someone shouted from outside. Hey, janitor. Move it. He turned, startled. I get it now, magic, my childhood. Another memory surfaced. Rovelin and I sat on green grass. She smiled and held out her hand. Ven, let's become great mages together. Promise. He nodded eagerly. Yeah. Later, I entered mage training. If only I had made better friends or had slightly more potential. That day I smiled the brightest. If things had gone differently. He reached toward that memory, but it vanished in his grasp. His face fell. Admit it. It's all over. A tear rolled down his cheek. He slumped against the wall. Somehow, ants had entered the room. He glanced at them. That sound again. I hear it every time I'm experimented on. I have no strength left. Maybe dying would be better. Suddenly, a voice echoed. Really? It came from a crushed ant. But that's not how you really feel, is it? It's not over yet. The ants gathered, climbing over each other, driven by hatred and survival. A humanoid shadow formed, an image of himself. Like another version of him had emerged. Stay strong. Clench your teeth. Endure it all again and again. It walked over and lifted his face. So you'll never be trampled again. So you can grasp great power. A powerful magic aura appeared. You will surpass your limits. Den clenched his fists. Yes. The full moon outside the bars. It's not over yet. A thesis must become the blade of my vengeance. What I've honed in secret for 7 years. Now complete. The floor was etched with dense magical text. If I can solve the final problem I failed to resolve. He picked up a shard of rock and began etching it into the ground. Against greater power, intellect alone isn't enough. Then I must defy fate itself, redefine theory, and complete a never-before-seen method of bodily reconstruction. He slammed the rock down. Theory of heaven-defying rebirth. In an instant, a massive magic circle was drawn across the room's floor. Inside the circle, an image of a phoenix spreading its wings. He reached out and narrowed his eyes. A powerful force surged from his palm. Tomorrow, I will break my limits. Lightning flickered and coiled into his hand. The long-awaited theory of celestial rebirth, finally complete. Only if I accept death. He stepped forward and picked up the tattered coat lying on the ground. What remained now was to refine the theory further. He put the coat on, covering his body riddled with wounds. This artifact, it might allow me to cast magic once, even if my manaless body shatters in the process. His eyes turned cold, staring into the void. Tomorrow afternoon, everything changes. In the towering spires of the kingdom, the long night passed. And finally, the day of my plan arrived. A key turned in a rusty lock. The heavy wooden door creaked open to reveal a damp, musty space. A voice muttered, "Trash. Time to clean up the alchemy room." The man scowled as he glanced toward Ven, who emerged from the dark room, clutching his injured arm. His head hung low, eyes dull. "Don't just stand there. Clean up the blood and bandage your cuts. You whining over some minor experiments? Pathetic. The festival is coming, don't get lazy." He suddenly shouted, "Did you hear me? Answer." Ven raised his battered face, staring at him coldly. "Yes." Inside the school laboratory, Ven carefully cleaned a glass flask, then moved on to a large beaker. Focused on his work, he was startled by a familiar voice behind him. "You're cleaning all by yourself?" Ven turned in surprise. "Rovalyn?" She stood with her arms crossed, smiling gently. As he continued wiping the glass in his hand, he asked, "What brings you here?" "I came to say goodbye to a friend before leaving," she replied, stepping closer. He smiled, as if remembering something. "Right. You said you were going to study in the magical city of Virant, a privilege reserved only for the tower's most exceptional talents. Congratulations. I hope everything goes well." Rovalyn stayed silent, gazing at him. Then she extended her hand. "Den, my offer still stands. Come with me to Virant." He stared at her hand, emotionless. "It's not like this place. You won't have to deal with arrogant fools who look down on you. You'll have new opportunities to learn in the magical city." She paused, realizing she may have said too much. Her cheeks flushed red. She turned away quickly, stammering, "Don't get the wrong idea. I just want someone to talk to, that's all." Then cut in. "Rovalyn." He stood at the window, cloth still in hand, his expression softening into a radiant smile. "I'm staying here." She watched him, still blushing. Outside, a carriage was already waiting. After a moment, she quietly said, "I'll write you letters." Ven watched the carriage through the iron window frame. "Rovalyn, you don't know anything. You don't know what's really happening here." He turned away, following the voice that called from the shadows beyond the door. "Move it. You don't even know what I've been working toward all this time." Both his hands were shackled with long chains, and his piercing gaze locked onto the man holding them. "But I'm grateful for one thing. You won't be dragged into my plan. The Magic Festival. One of the most celebrated events, marking the founding of the first magic tower and the resurgence of magic. It was the busiest day for the entire tower. People laughed and played joyfully together. When the Magic Festival began, all the top mages traveled to the major cities, leaving only the lower-ranked ones behind. Ven silently carried a tray of drinks down the castle hallways. He stopped in front of a room and knocked. "It's Venerable," a voice from inside barked. "Come in." As the door opened, the voice continued complaining. "What are you doing here at this hour? If this isn't important, I'll beat you." Ven entered calmly. "The tower master ordered me to clean the treasure storage." He placed a cup of tea on the table beside the man. The man scowled. "Then you should have gotten permission beforehand. Don't you think about these things? What a useless idiot." He picked up the cup and gestured toward the treasure room. "Go on in. But don't mess anything up or break anything, got it?" Ven replied, "Yes, sir." He opened the treasure room door, glanced around, and slipped inside, carefully closing the door behind him. He touched a glowing orb. It emitted a faint violet light. His eyes fixed on the activated light. "Good. The sound-blocking artifact is working. Let's begin." He walked slowly toward a spiraling staircase that wound downward seemingly without end. At the bottom, a magic circuit hovered in the air, surrounded by protective enchantments. Slowly, a staff came into view. The second circuit, the artificial artifact the tower master spent a fortune to create. It allows a mage to cast triple spells and temporarily awaken their hidden potential. Ven studied the staff. To execute my plan, I need that staff. But to get it, I must disable the protective magic circle. His expression darkened. This is a level 7 enchantment created by the Tower Master himself. He boldly thrust his hand into the magical barrier. I spent the past 7 years learning how to neutralize this. Tower Master, your precious circle. A dark force surged toward the magic barrier. Ven gritted his teeth and shouted, I'll destroy it myself. Scene change. Bottles and flasks of various alcohol brands were scattered across a table. Damn it, someone cursed. 2 men sat talking, and behind them a large, pulsing heart of magical energy floated, wrapped in layered protective spells. One of them drank and grumbled. Everyone else is out enjoying the festival, and we're stuck here guarding this energy source. The other replied, Well, we did draw the short straw. The first man looked at his drink. Honestly, if it were based on skill, I'd be the one chosen for something better. Suddenly, the door creaked open. They looked up. Ven, right? Perfect timing. Go fetch us more wine. One of them called out casually. Ven turned around, calm and silent, while they continued chatting, unaware of the danger approaching. When I become the Tower Master, I'm not drinking this cheap crap anymore, one laughed. You think that position's easy to get? If by some miracle you become Tower Master, drinks are on me. As they joked, Ven quietly pulled the staff from inside his coat. His eyes radiated murderous resolve. I'll remember that, the drunk man laughed. I'm definitely becoming Tower Master. A sudden blue flash shot between the two of them. What the hell? One shouted. What are you doing, Ven? Are you insane? Ven coldly stared at them. I expected a more intelligent reaction. The man gritted his teeth and raised his own staff. A lowly rat like you dares betray real mages? I'll fix that broken brain of yours. He began chanting. A circle of swirling water formed around him. If you can withstand this. Level 3 spell, Tidal Surge. Streams of water surged at Ven. Ven whispered calmly. Local spell, Earth Spike. He thrust the staff forward. A massive stone spike erupted, shattering the wave. The man's eyes widened. He countered my spell? The stone spike continued forward, piercing straight through his chest. Blood splattered, and he screamed. The spike buried deep into his heart as blood spread across his body. He collapsed, gasping. How can a nobody like you, a level 1 peasant, cast magic? A large pool of blood spread under him, reflecting Ven's image. Ven still held the staff, his voice icy. What's wrong? Surprised a failed experiment could cast magic. His face twisted with hatred. He aimed the staff at the other mage's face. This is the price for playing with someone's life. You and the tower. After killing them, he turned his eyes toward the massive magical heart behind the glass. This is my first time seeing it up close. He studied the enormous purple heart glowing before him. This power source took 5 years to reach here. Ven stripped off his coat. Now, using mana from the core, I'll activate Celestial Rebirth. If I fail, I don't know what will happen. But if I don't try, I'll never know. Tattoos and intricate magical runes glowed across his back and arms. He raised the staff and slammed it into the ground. A massive magic circle lit up beneath him. At the final incantation, Rebirth, the tip of the staff sparked with lightning. He raised his hand and roared with all his strength. Celestial Rebirth. A torrent of energy exploded outward. The entire tower was engulfed in blinding blue light. It shot upward, piercing the black night sky. Far away, a carriage traveling along a mountain path was momentarily lit up by the flash from the distant tower. The passenger turned to look instinctively. That massive magical energy. Back in the Tower Master furrowed his brow. Someone infiltrated my tower. Smoke slowly rose under the full moon, drawing faint trails across the quiet night sky. It came from the rubble of a collapsed structure, still smoldering. From within the wreckage, a hand shot upward. Ven strained and pushed aside the beam, pinning him down, finally pulling himself free. He still gripped the staff tightly. Suddenly, the staff crumbled into ash in his hand. That staff had enough power to obliterate an entire area. Yet I'm still alive? Smoke continued to rise all around him. Ven knelt on the ground, catching his breath. Did it work this time? Then, a sudden flash of light lit up the sky. He looked up, startled. Someone's teleporting here. The light drew closer. Someone was coming. The Tower Master descended swiftly, holding his staff, his aura radiating overwhelming pressure. The Tower Master himself? Has he sensed something abnormal in the mana source? He saw Ven standing amid the ruins and immediately raised his hand toward him. A massive wave of energy shot down, blasting the earth apart. Dust and debris filled the air. Still, a silhouette stood tall amidst the smoke. The Tower Master narrowed his eyes, a flicker of shock crossing his face. A magic circle appeared beneath Ven's feet. A teleportation circle? The Tower Master clenched his teeth in rage. You dare trespass in my magic tower and think you can run? He stomped onto the cracked ground. His entire body emitted dark, purple-black aura. The atmosphere itself twisted and compressed around him. Even the loose pebbles on the ground trembled, then began floating into the air. Whether you're an emperor or a damn rat, it doesn't matter. His eyes glowed menacingly as a vortex of killing intent erupted from within. I'll find you, and I'll kill you. The sky suddenly filled with churning black clouds. Thunder boomed, tearing through the silence of the night. The wrathful night had begun. But dawn finally broke. Sunlight pierced through the forest canopy. Ven lay motionless on the ground. So tired. My whole body's weak. I just want to lie here. A trickle of water flowed into his mouth. Water! He choked and coughed it out, jolting upright. What the? Where am I? Before him, a clear river flowed gently through the forest. He looked at his reflection in the pristine water. His expression changed instantly. What happened to me? He reached up and touched his face in disbelief. My face, it's different. Then he touched his hair. My brown hair, it's turned silvery white. His eyes had changed too, black irises were now bright blue. Panicking, he frantically felt his body. Have I completely changed? Was there a malfunction in the body reconstruction? But I'm certain celestial rebirth succeeded. Memories of last night flooded back. Yes, he had touched the core directly and activated celestial rebirth just before the Tower Master noticed. And now he was here. The sun filtered softly through the treetops. I've never seen this forest before. Looking around, he realized. These plants, they're not native to Bohem's magic tower region. Did I successfully teleport to the other side of the continent? He slowly smiled. In other words, celestial rebirth succeeded. And I escaped using the teleportation circle I prepared. Leaning back, he laughed aloud. I'm free. He collapsed onto the grassy ground, laughing with joy. I wonder what the Tower Master is feeling right now. He must be furious. The tower in ruins. No idea who the culprit is. And his precious test subject? Gone. Ven rested his arm over his eyes and gazed at the blue sky. His face was radiant with genuine joy. But the tower wouldn't fall so easily. Even with the mana source destroyed, the Tower Master would think of something. That title, Tower Master, belonged to Valk Bestia. A flashback showed Valk standing before the massive mana heart. That man's authority and power were not hollow titles. Ven closed his eyes and raised one hand toward the sky. For now, this is enough. While the tower rebuilds, I'll train. Until I can return and destroy everything he built, right before his eyes. His hand nearly blocked the sun. And there, under that light, Ven engraved his name into the world. Not as a test subject, but as a mage. Revenge, and proving I'm a true mage. That's my only goal. He lay in a bed of wildflowers, arms stretched high, fist clenched, grasping the dream he could finally reach. His face glowed with a rare brilliance, as if reborn anew. He would leave that wretched tower behind, if only for now. A little later, deep in the forest, a goblin was hacking away at a wooden barrel with its axe. Ven raised a hand and whispered a spell. Wind slash. The goblin turned at the noise, too late. A sharp, invisible force sliced its head clean off. Blood sprayed everywhere. Ven looked down at his own hand. There's definitely a side effect. He twirled a strand of his hair between his fingers, deep in thought. Something must have gone wrong during reconstruction. Aside from my eyes and hair, my face hasn't changed much. But my mana is significantly higher than before. Even now, I'm not entirely sure what happened to me. He shoved his hands into his pockets and kicked the goblin's head aside. More importantly, this could be a problem. Seeing a goblin casually roaming around likely meant the nearest village was far from here. As he approached the barrel, he noticed wagon wheel tracks imprinted on the dirt. He crouched, placed a hand on the barrel, and observed carefully. These wagon tracks. Did someone drop this during a rushed escape? He closed his eyes and whispered another spell. Mana trace. A faint stream of energy flowed from him, tracing the tracks in the dirt. Those tracks belonged to a carriage moving ahead on the trail. Scene shift, at that very moment. Stupid horses. Move faster, a voice yelled in panic. A man whipped the reins wildly, his face pale with fear. Damn it, damn it. What the hell is happening? He had just escaped a horrifying situation. Moments earlier, he had accidentally stumbled into an orc-infested zone, remnants of a bandit group thought to be exterminated. Trying to negotiate by claiming connections to Lord Fit had failed. The hired mercenaries had fled, unwilling to die in an ambush. Behind him, monstrous figures loomed, massive ORCS. One orc grabbed a man, crushed him in its grip, blood splattering everywhere. Only a mangled leg remained. The grotesque orc cackled, blood staining its tusks. What the hell is that thing? Seeing a chance, he whipped the horses and fled. The orcs were too distracted fighting the bandits. The only lucky break I've had, otherwise I'd be dead. Back in the present, the carriage rumbled forward, still pursued. Then a deep roar echoed behind them. Conan paled. No way, it's chasing me. He whipped the horses frantically. Move it, damn it. Faster. But suddenly, the wheel struck a large branch. The carriage tipped. Conan was thrown violently to the ground. Aff! My back! The roar came closer. The horses and carriage lay wrecked. Conan struggled to his feet. This is bad. As he lifted his head, his heart dropped. Glowing eyes stared at him from the darkness of the forest. One of the creatures even bared its fangs with a sick grin. Large and small ORCS and goblins emerged, snarling and armed. He collapsed backward, trembling. Shit. So this is how I die. Torn apart by these monsters. The creatures charged. A goblin leaped into the air, raising its axe to strike. Conan shut his eyes tight. It's over. But then a chant rang out. Earth wall! Suddenly, the ground rose into a solid wall around him, blocking the attack. The goblin slammed into it and fell back. A voice rang out from above. Forgot to make breathing holes. The lead ORC turned upward toward the voice. Ven stood tall atop the newly formed earthen wall. I'd better finish this quickly before he suffocates. Flames flickered to life in Ven's hand. That goblin earlier doesn't count. This is my first real battle. The orcs roared fiercely. Ven didn't flinch. He hurled a massive fireball at them. Plenty of targets. Good time to test my new spells. Flames crawled up tree trunks and spread to the branches overhead. Crackling and popping sounds filled the air. Fire spread rapidly through the forest. Multi-flame arrow. Ven stood atop a raised hill of earth. Arms extended as flaming arrows rained down on the goblins trying to climb up. The fire licked their flesh. The goblins screamed in agony. Yet the massive goblin chieftain stood unfazed, baring sharp, white teeth in a savage grin. Smaller goblins crowded around him, mouths open in wild howls. They stared up at Ven with feral eyes. The chieftain let out a piercing roar and pointed toward Ven, ordering his underlings to charge. They rushed at him, ignoring the flames engulfing their bodies. 2 miniature magic circles formed above each of Ven's hands. Sparks crackled like tiny bolts of lightning. He chanted, Dual flame arrow, Gale variant. He raised his arms. The 2 magic circles merged, their light intensifying. Ven's gaze sharpened as he focused forward, casting a powerful dual spell. Flame barrage. Dozens of mini magic circles appeared around the goblins, each glowing with fiery red cores. The goblins looked up at the burning sky above them, horrified. Magic and fire collided in the air, unleashing a thunderous explosion that shook the forest. Everything was blown away, especially the goblins, who took the brunt of the blast. The explosion echoed across the woods. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but scorched corpses. They had been flung, burned black, and scattered across the battlefield. The surrounding trees and grass were reduced to ashes. Ven stood amidst the smoldering remains, a massive magic circle still glowing faintly above him. Then rain fell. Summoned by his spell, it poured down, washing away the last traces of fire and smoke. Ven remained still, drenched but unfazed. Even I'm impressed. I couldn't even kill a single goblin before. He scanned the area. Looks like there are no more left. He walked to the side of the clearing where a mound of earth still stood. Better get that guy out before he suffocates. The rain hadn't stopped. It'd be meaningless to help if he just dies now. As Ven focused on removing the earthen wall protecting Conan, he didn't notice. The goblin chieftain still clinging to life. Wounded but not dead, it had risen again, mouth agape, sharp claws reaching toward the back of Ven's head. It let out a final desperate scream. Ven turned, startled. One more. Blood sprayed across the grass. Scene shift, forest road. A carriage rolled slowly along a forest trail. The midday sun shone down, its heat softened by the shade of tall trees. Sir Conran, I'll remember this day for the rest of my life. A young man with black hair laughed brightly as he drove the carriage, expressing endless gratitude. If it weren't for you, I'd be dead. He beamed at Ven, who sat quietly inside the wagon, head lowered. How can I possibly repay you? Ven sighed, tired of the chatter. I get it. Now watch the road, or you'll tip the cart again. Yes, sir, the young man replied cheerfully. He continued talking the entire way. Oh, speaking of earlier, those monsters, were you hurt? Did anything happen to you? Sorry if I'm being rude after what you did. Ven's expression tightened as he sat amid crates, annoyed by the constant talking. This guy talks way too much. He closed his eyes and tried to ignore him. Still, that was intense. Ven recalled the moment of danger. There was still one left. His eyes widened in memory. The goblin chieftain had raised its claws for one last strike. But Ven hadn't waited to die. He'd condensed mana into a glowing orb in his hand, eyes sharp and filled with murderous intent. Wind slash. The spell cleaved through the goblin's skull in a single blow. Dust and debris scattered. His cloak fluttered in the wind as he stood tall beside the carriage. He had laughed, victorious. Nothing to worry about anymore. He asked the young man, "Are there bandits around here? I thought bandits usually avoid areas with demons." The young driver answered, "No, something like this has never happened before. This area belongs to Baron Fit." Inside a grand estate, a man sat near a window working diligently. "I've known him since I was young. We used to exchange letters often," the driver said. He recalled the correspondence he had shared with Baron Fit over the years. He looked up, a hint of concern on his face. Baron Fit recently said all the bandits were wiped out and that the area is safe now. So I didn't bother hiring expensive mercenaries this time. As he spoke, Ven sat with one leg up, hand resting near his mouth in thought. I thought the teleportation failed. But if this is Baron Fit's territory, then it worked. I erased all traces, and even my appearance changed unintentionally. But Bohem's magic could still track me down. He lowered his gaze, staring at his reflection in the river. I need to hide my identity and start rebuilding myself. Mr. Mage? Are you listening? Ven turned slightly. All right. I haven't told you my name. He smiled faintly. From now on, I won't use the name Ven. That name is for the day I face the Tower Master again. The sky gradually darkened. At the main gate of Baron Fit's castle in the Fit territory, warm yellow lights glowed from the windows, giving the fortress a touch of liveliness. Baron Fit stared in surprise. Conrad, you look much more worn out than the last time we met. The two men behind him were equally shocked. You've lost weight, he said with concern, making Conrad scratch his head awkwardly. Probably from running for my life from that orc. Baron Fit rushed over. It's my fault. Are you injured? As if the remnants of the bandits weren't enough. Now demons too. Conrad waved it off. No, my lord, it's not your fault. Then the Baron turned to Ven and smiled. So this young man is the mage who saved you. Conrad had already explained everything that happened earlier that day. He saved my life, my lord. I couldn't just ignore that. Baron Fit turned to Ven and gave him a formal invitation. Tell him I'd like to invite him into the castle. Later that evening, Ven had changed into new clothes and stood before the door to the Baron's study. Two maids flanked the entrance. They opened the door for him. Ven stepped inside and bowed politely, placing a hand over his chest and slightly lowering his head. Thank you for the food, the clothing, and the place to rest. Baron Fit smiled. Come in. He sat at the head of a long table, a maid beside him setting out cutlery. All right. I haven't introduced myself. I am Fit Henlos, the lord of this land. He gestured graciously. Please make yourself comfortable. A grand feast had been laid out, delicately prepared dishes, colorful and aromatic. So, your name is Asher, yes? Is the food to your liking? Yes, it's delicious, Ven replied calmly. Baron Fit leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table and pressing his palms together. To thank you for saving Conrad, I've prepared 5 million EO. Just let me know when you need it. Then, after a brief pause, he added more seriously. And, though it might be sudden, I do have something to ask of you. Ven paused his meal, listening. If you're willing, I'd like to assign you a task. You'll be well compensated. Ven considered this. I'll need money to reach my goals. and time to adapt to using magic in real combat. He set his fork down. Could you tell me the details of the task? Baron Fit interlaced his fingers, his expression turning grave. A few days ago, in the southern forest, several corpses were found hanging upside down. The investigation confirmed they were villagers, and the entire village had been wiped out. He lowered his gaze. We're trying to resolve this before he departs. Consider this your payment for room and board. Ven dabbed his lips with a napkin, thinking. It looked like it was wiped out by magic. Could there be a mage among the bandits? Baron Fit discussed the matter further with him. Of course, it's only a theory at this point. Then he smiled brightly. So, when shall we begin this expedition? 4 days later. Knights gathered before the city gate. A gray-haired senior knight stood before them and gave a formal salute. It's an honor to meet you. I am a knight under Baron Fit's command, and the leader of this mission. You may call me Enoch. He gestured toward several others. The black-haired and silver-haired ones are the H brothers. The young man there is Paris. Each greeted Ven in their own way. The red-haired youth waved enthusiastically. Nice to meet you, Mage. Ven nodded politely and shook Enoch's hand. A pleasure to meet you. I am Asher. As he greeted them, he couldn't help but recall Baron Fit's sly grin days ago. Sure, I can help in many ways. But throwing me into an expedition out of nowhere. They had discussed the plan excitedly, brushing off his objections. Shouldn't this kind of thing be stopped before it happens? We're trying to wrap it up before the guest leaves, remember? Just consider it payment for your stay. Ven was getting more annoyed the more he thought about it. Then, he noticed a group of people gathered in a corner near the gate. Are those people also part of the expedition? Enoch followed his gaze. Ah, they're adventurers. The adventurers huddled around a map, whispering among themselves. They gathered here because of a rumor. Some strange orcs have been spotted. He clarified their purpose. Ven's eyes caught the golden adventurer badge hanging from one bearded man's neck. There must be a big reward if even gold-ranked adventurers are joining. Gold-ranked adventurers were considered equal to knights in combat ability. They relied on honed bodies and martial skills, not magic. Ven stood by the gate, stealing glances at them. I've heard that when a knight reaches their peak, they can cut down even mountains. He and the knights prepared to move together. Even with 3 knights in the group, they still needed Ven. Enoch turned back to Ven. Asher, if the bandits truly have a mage, we'll be depending on you. Ven walked behind them, parting tall grass and rocks along the trail. I understand. But may I ask, why exactly? Enoch explained. A Tier 2 mage has combat power comparable to an average knight. And if that mage launches spells from afar, even a knight would struggle to get close. He paused, then added, if that really is the case. He didn't finish the sentence. Soon, Ven stood before the group of knights and adventurers. He raised a hand. A large red magic circle began to glow in front of them, one imbued with layered magical effects. The surrounding light shimmered unnaturally. What is that? Gasps rang out. A red magic circle? In the middle of the forest? That kind of spell, in this territory? One knight instinctively reached for his weapon, eyes wide. Ven pointed calmly at the circle. That was just an illusion barrier. But there's a detection spell embedded as well. Step back. I'll dismantle it completely. His gaze locked on the magic circle. Then, with a sharp gesture, he tore the spell in half. Light scattered as the red magic collapsed. Enoch watched in stunned silence. He destroyed the circle so easily. Ven smiled slightly, admiring his own work. He's probably at least a Tier 2 mage. He believed adventurers were connected to the guild, traveling the continent, taking commissions to explore unknown lands or eliminate monsters threatening humanity. 3 gold-ranked adventurers had just taken down a powerful beast. Its corpse now lay beneath their feet. Death always walks beside adventurers, and that's why people admire them. One had died beside his own sword. But money, if paired with skill, brought power and fame. Yet when an adventurer grew too strong, having escaped death too many times, and abandoned their honor, turning it into ambition, and aimed their blade at humanity, they became bandits. Under the midday sun, 2 such former adventurers stood over a deer's corpse. Damn it, cursed the long-haired one. His companion stood nearby, watching him fume. We still haven't recovered from the damage done by the Fit expedition, the long-haired one growled. Now goblins and orcs are randomly attacking us, and we're out of food too. The poor deer lay still, not yet realizing what it had just been caught up in. The long-haired man turned his anger toward the others. What the hell are you all doing just standing there? Go find more prey. He pointed out in frustration. Behind him stood a group of bandits. Meanwhile, the Fit expedition, led by Enoch, hid quietly in the nearby underbrush. One of the H brothers whispered, "That's definitely them." "What should we do?" he continued. "Commander Enoch, give us the order." But Enoch didn't answer. He was observing the bandits carefully. He gripped his sword tightly and whispered, "They're not alert yet. We strike now." But Ven stepped forward and stopped him. "Wait, Commander Enoch." He raised a hand. "I was brought here to counter any mages they might have. But we still haven't gauged their full strength." Enoch hesitated, listening. "If we're careless, we could get counterattacked," Ven added. Enoch frowned. "But if we let them leave?" Ven narrowed his eyes, analyzing the scene. "There's one way." He turned his gaze to two bandits who were clearly off guard. The long-haired bandit with a ponytail kicked the deer corpse. "So we've finally expanded our group," he said. "Not that it matters. Those villagers we recruited are all dead now anyway." His companion, Baz, tried to calm him down. "Don't be so pissed off. Who knew that creepy orc would show up and kill our guys?" He scratched his head. "Back when I was still an adventurer, I never thought I'd be in a mess like this. If I hadn't gotten caught killing other adventurers for money." He chuckled bitterly. Baz sighed. "Why don't we hit another village?" The long-haired one shook his head. "No. The Baron's already mad about the bodies we left hanging last time." Bin's son stood nearby, arms crossed, brows furrowed. "We've been hiding under this illusion magic long enough. It's time to move." He glanced toward the map. "I heard there's a city called Mates nearby. Let's hit the surrounding villages first." Suddenly, flaming arrows shot out from the bushes. They landed right at the feet of the two unsuspecting bandits, startling them. Then an explosion. The blast ripped through the clearing, throwing dust and debris everywhere. Baz cursed as he was knocked off his feet. "What the hell?" Bin raised his staff and summoned 2 magic circles to block Ven's attack. "That's not just a bomb. It's magic," he snarled, eyes wide. "We've been found." The Fit expedition squad burst out from their hiding spot, swords drawn. Their eyes glowed with fierce battle intent as they stormed forward. The strike force, led by Enoch and the H brothers, smashed through Bin's magical shield. Baz and Bin both staggered back from the impact. Struck by magical backlash, Bin's son was thrown backward. He let out a cry of pain and coughed up blood. Bajia gritted his teeth as he watched Bin wounded. From hiding, Vo stepped out, calmly explaining what had just occurred. He mentioned that releasing multiple barriers rapidly was a form of defensive magic, but they weren't solid and could easily shatter. Ba looked at him in astonishment. When a mana barrier breaks, the damage often rebounds back onto the mage. Emerging from behind a bush, Vo's appearance shocked Ba. Was that man a mage? Den smiled confidently as he looked at the mage he had just overpowered. "I've neutralized his power. I'll handle him as requested." A magic circle still glowed in Ven's hand. "Then I'll leave him to you," Ba replied. Eno, having just completed a coordinated attack, dropped to one knee, still gripping his sword for support. He scowled at the enemy. Ba, seething, glared at Venerable, his eyes blazed with fury, and both hands gripped the twin swords hanging from his sides. "The Baron really wants us dead. He even hired a mage," Ba growled. "But do you really think things will go your way?" He launched himself at Ven with maximum speed, swords raised. Before he could strike, Eno intercepted him. The clash of steel rang out. The two locked eyes, murderous intent clear. Each of them wanted the other dead. "I'll bring your head to the Baron. Consider it my answer." Ba snarled as he poured strength into his blades, trying to push Eno back. But Eno only smirked with contempt. "How cruel," he said, taunting him. "Try if you can." The ground rumbled beneath their feet, a sign that Den and Bin Sen's chase had intensified. Den used earth magic to pursue him, forcing Binnen to flee in pain and frustration. Binnen glanced back and scowled. "TCH. I tried to lose him, but he's still on my tail." The only upside was that Ven was still following on foot. That thought gave Binnen a sliver of hope. He leapt from the magic circle and landed on the ground. Only a third-tier mage could use flight magic, and the mage chasing him was clearly only second tier. Looking up at Vden, who was now standing atop an earthen platform, Binnen shouted, "How long do you plan on standing there?" He then summoned a magic attack. "Fine, then I'll strike first." Binnen seized the initiative. "If this guy's only second tier, I need to kill him now." A volley of magic arrows surged toward Ven. But he didn't flinch. Den calmly activated multi-flame arrow magic. Following the chant, fiery magic circles appeared in the sky, glowing orange and gold. He raised his hand and unleashed a counterattack. Fire clashed with wind. Neither element gave way. Then, an explosion burst from their collision, lighting up the battlefield in a blinding flash followed by thick smoke. When the dust cleared, a massive crater had formed at the impact site. Binin's son, panting and bloodied, wiped the corner of his mouth and sneered. Not bad for a second-tier mage. But you picked the wrong opponent. As the smoke thinned, he sneered again. If that knight of yours had followed too, I'd be in real trouble. But if it's just you, I can kill you and escape. Through the smoke, Ven's silhouette emerged. I have no intention of letting you go, he said coolly. The two now stood face to face. Binin sized him up, impressed. You're confident for someone your age, he noted. And to command 2 elements at Tier 2. It's been a long time since I've seen such a gifted rookie. His gaze turned sinister. But you won't expect what happens next. Binin raised both hands and began chanting a Tier 3 ice spell, Frost Pillar. A massive chunk of ice materialized, aiming to crush Ven under its weight. Compared to it, Ven looked small and fragile. Binin launched the ice down at him. But Ven stood his ground. A sharp sound rang out. A magic circle appeared on top of the falling ice, covering its entire surface, with 3 smaller circles at different points. Despite his efforts, Binin had lost control of his spell. His baffled expression was almost comical. Ven's earth magic had intercepted the attack. He blocked it. Binin stared, horrified. He had clearly met someone beyond his league. Ven raised his hand. With fingers spread, he summoned sharp stone spikes around himself, supporting the falling ice. Binin was stunned. Ven's fingers curled slightly, and he chanted again. Earth Lance. Mana coiled around his hand. Then he clenched his fist. The Earth Lance shattered Binin's massive ice spell. Chunks of ice flew in every direction, reflecting his stunned face. What? Earth Lance? How can a Tier 2 mage cast a Tier 3 spell? Who knows? Ven replied indifferently. Overwhelmed by fear, Binin collapsed backward. In Ven's hand, a rhombus-shaped crystal formed, made from his magic. You wonder how I did it? Binin's pupils widened in terror as he stared at Ven's approaching figure. He used not just Tier 3 magic, but also for elements? Impossible. Binin couldn't accept that a second-tier mage could wield such power. He had been deceived. That was the last thought in his mind, before Ven's magic pierced through his body and ended his wretched life. The sun slowly sank. Ven stood over the lifeless body. He wiped his face and glanced down at the corpse. Good thing I came. Thanks to him, I've learned what it truly means to fight as a mage. Elsewhere in the forest, the sounds of battle had drawn unwanted attention. A creature's ears twitched. Around its neck hung a golden rank adventurer's insignia, glinting ominously. Its blood-red body turned toward where Ven had fought. A low growl escaped its throat. Then came a chilling grin. Scattered around the beast were the bodies of unfortunate souls. Weapons littered the ground, blood soaking the earth. 2 days before the expedition, I had concocted a magical potion using ingredients obtained from the Mage Tower. It was a mana circle expansion drug, a creation that brought back memories of the hellish days inside the tower. Even now, I've never once wished to conduct human experimentation again. Ven remembered the moment he tested it on himself. His body writhed in pain, currents of electricity surged through his frame, and blood streamed from his eyes, nose, and mouth. Now, staring down at the corpse on the ground, he thought, at this level of damage, he's most likely dead. I need to leave behind some evidence that I helped defeat the bandits, to prove my contribution to the Lord and earn his trust. Suddenly, Ven noticed the staff clutched in the man's hand. Wait, isn't this the staff that guy used? He picked it up and examined it closely. It was a stone magic staff, imbued with enchantments that slightly increased spellcasting speed and enhanced ice magic. For now, it would prove useful. Just then, Bark came rushing over, grinning ear to ear. Asher, you're okay. Ven turned, surprised. Bark, look behind you. Thank goodness. We were worried when you didn't return, even after we took care of the bandits. Ven got to his feet. Sorry. He was stronger than I expected. Took me a bit longer to handle him. Bark nodded. Yeah, judging by the traces on the road, it looked intense. Ven asked, Wait, did you say the bandits were defeated? Bark began stuffing the man's body into a sack. Yeah, a few of them are still alive, but Lord Enoch is fighting their leader. By the time we get back, it should be over. As Bark slung the sack over his shoulder, Ven asked seriously, "Before we return, can I ask something?" Bark remained cheerful. "Sure, go ahead." Ven held up the staff. "What happens to items taken from the bandits?" Bark gave a thumbs up. "The Lord said if there's anything Asher wants to take, and if it's not something serious, he's happy to let you keep it." Hearing that, Ven recalled the Baron's kind smile, and a warmth spread in his chest. "Baron Phi, then I'll take this staff." When they returned, everyone praised him enthusiastically. "Well done, Asher. If it weren't for you, our casualties might have been much worse." Ven replied humbly, "Not really. It was actually a valuable experience for me." Varja, who was bound, stared in stunned silence. "Binsun is dead? No way." Panic set in. "Damn it. At this rate, I'll be taken back and executed. There are still things I haven't done yet. I can't die like this, not in such a stupid way. I've got nothing left to lose." With that, Varja slipped free from his ropes. He swung his sword, unleashing a brilliant red burst of light in a spiraling slash. "Out of my way," he roared. "Without Binsun's magic, I can't break through the encirclement. Then there's only one option: kill a knight and escape on his horse." With that plan in mind, he charged at Commander Enoch, sword drawn. He sneered arrogantly, confident in his advantage. But Enoch calmly seized his wrist, grabbed his collar. "What?" Before Varja could understand what was happening, Enoch hurled him into the ground. His skull slammed against the earth, dazed by the brutal counterattack. The sword dropped from his hand. The others quickly swarmed him, pinning him down. Furious, he shouted, "You threw your sword away to fight? You have no honor as a knight." Enoch smirked coldly. "What are you talking about?" He raised a dagger. "Honor is for the living bandit." Moments later, Varja's body was dragged off. Enoch sighed. "I let you see something unpleasant. If I'd had more time, I would have taken his head myself. I don't usually fight like that." Ven laughed. "That was impressive, Lord Enoch." Then he asked, "But why did you spare the others?" Enoch explained. "Some of our soldiers said they recognized people among the bandits. They might be survivors from the village that was attacked. I'll take them back to the castle and confirm their identities first." Then Hara stepped in. "All right, everyone, let's return to the estate. Escort the prisoners." Just as the group was moving out, one of the captured bandits suddenly panicked. "No, I don't want to die like this." He broke free and ran for it. "Wait, stop right there." Everyone was startled. "I'll handle it and be back," Hara shouted, taking off after him. But Ven suddenly spoke. "Hold on. Something's not right." At that moment, a voice cried out from the forest. "Help! Somebody help!" Ven froze. "Is that the smell of blood?" They stared into the bushes, weapons raised, ready for battle. Suddenly, something struck Ven in the forehead. The bandit's head, the one who had just run away, rolled across the ground. And from the shadows, a towering figure emerged. "What is that?" "An orc," someone murmured. "No," Ven muttered. "It looks like the adventurers couldn't defeat it. Can this thing even still be called an orc?" It wasn't alone. Ven could sense dozens of demonic beings nearby. So it's the leader of the demonic tribe, just like the one we faced before. Its mouth stretched unnaturally wide like a clown's grin. Its body was twice as large as the other orcs. It must have evolved. Then the red orc pointed at them. Goblins and green orcs charged forward. Commander Enoch shouted, "Form a defensive line. Take down the goblins first, then the red orc." Before he could finish, the red orc lunged at him. Its overwhelming strength sent Enoch flying. As its massive foot descended, Bark and Harris sprang forward and blocked it with their swords. The orc lost its balance and fell backward. Seizing the moment, Enoch climbed on top of it and drove his blade into its chest. He carved a long, deep wound along the beast's torso. It collapsed completely, but it wasn't dead yet. Then the red orc grabbed a nearby goblin, stuffed it into its mouth, and began chewing. Everyone watched in horror. When it finished eating, it spat out the bones, and its body regenerated as if nothing had happened. They were stunned. "It heals by devouring its own allies?" Enoch grimly muttered. "Looks like we won't be getting back in peace after all." He ordered everyone to prepare for battle. The red ORC grabbed its sword and charged straight toward them. It lunged at Harris, and Paris didn't even have time to react. Luckily, Harris managed to block the incoming blade just in time. But he was shocked. Why had the ORC suddenly thrown its sword? However, his sword wasn't strong enough to withstand the impact. It started to crack, then shattered into sharp fragments. Horace was struck by the flying shards, piercing into his body. Enoch and Paris cried out, "Horace!" The red ORC switched targets. They shouted, "Paris, watch out!" When had it gotten so close? Paris gathered his strength and struck at the creature's arm. "I'll slice it clean in half." But he froze, his sword trembled in his grip. It was stuck in the monster's muscle. He couldn't pull it out. The ORC raised its hand to strike him. Right then, Ven cast Earth Resonance. Large boulders flew at the creature's face. He shouted, "Over here, Paris!" That snapped Paris back to his senses. "I'm still alive, huh? But what now?" "My sword stuck." Ven replied, "I think it enhanced its strength and regeneration after devouring its own kind." Bark clenched his jaw. "I went all out trying to cut off its arm. Since when are ORCs this strong? Could this be one of those mythical beings?" Ven denied it. "No, not quite." Bark was stunned. "Not even now?" Ven speculated aloud. "This thing absorbs others to regenerate and power up, and commands the lower-ranked monsters to frenzy. It's far stronger than any knight, and completely different from a regular ORC. Still, if that's all, then it's not enough to be called a special entity. Magic has its limits. No matter how much mana you pour in, a spell can't exceed its fixed scale. If it goes beyond that, the spell collapses. That's the rule of magic. But there is one type of spell without such limits." With that, he cast geomanipulation. A magic circle formed between his hands. The ground suddenly began to shake violently. The soldiers clutched their heads in panic. First it eats its own allies, now an earthquake? This is insane. We're all going to die. Even Enoch grew tense. "Everyone, calm down and hold your position. This is ASHR's magic, or so I hope." Someone shouted. "Even if it is, who could stay calm in a situation like this?" The shaking earth caused ORCs and goblins to fall into the ravine. They clung desperately to the red ORC, which looked up at them, snarling with rage. Ven stepped toward the cliff's edge. He then cast a Tier 3 spell, X-Flame Orb. A burning meteor-like fireball dropped from the sky, incinerating the monsters below. Bark cheered. "Burn them all. They're gone." "That was awesome." Enoch muttered. "Bark, keep your composure." But Bark couldn't help it. Still, watching them get blown up like that felt so good. Ven, however, stood deep in thought. Tier 3 spell, Geomanipulation. It's not limited by casting range, but no mage chooses it as a main spell because the mana it consumes isn't worth the power it delivers. If only I were the only one with enough mana, then maybe I could produce something beyond Tier 3. He sighed, rubbing his neck. But this is the best I could do. Suddenly, the red ORC roared again. Everyone froze. "It's still alive?" Bark panicked. "What now?" Ven thought quickly. If it didn't want to die yet, then he would try another technique. He unleashed a torrent of water, drowning the monsters. Paris shouted his name. Ven, holding his staff, released multi-layered ice arrows. A chill wind surged with his voice. "Then I'll freeze you to death." A wave of frosty magic shot out, freezing the ORC's torso. The other monsters were also trapped in the ice. The red ORC gritted its teeth, trying to reach for him. Ven kept dodging. Even if it could regenerate and feel no pain, if its body was frozen, it couldn't move. He summoned an icy orb that engulfed the giant red ORC completely. He finally let out a sigh of relief. The mission was complete. They returned to Virant Tower. Two men were conversing. "Did you see the news?" "Of course. The magic tower's been sealed off. Now everything makes sense. I heard the power source inside the tower exploded." "Do you really believe that?" Meanwhile, other mages were lamenting. Most of the remaining mages have disappeared, and the tower's functions are suspended. It's too difficult to conduct on-site investigations now. We haven't communicated in ages. The scale of the damage is too great for it to have been caused by just one energy explosion. An older man sipped his tea. People are saying it was either divine punishment or a disaster caused by humans. In another part of the city, mages whispered amongst themselves. Fortunately, we succeeded in proving our research theory. But I wonder, did any letters from the magic tower arrive during our experiment? Just then, the two earlier men's voices rose again. Someone must have plotted to seal off the Bohemian magic tower. The older man whispered, "There's no way the Bohem Tower would seal itself voluntarily. I heard they were conducting secret experiments and got attacked from within. Before he could finish, someone grabbed him by the collar. Say that again, a furious mage growled. The man was stunned. What? Why are you grabbing me all of a sudden? The other man pulled back his hood, revealing striking red hair. What exactly happened to the Bohem Magic Tower? Meanwhile, at the Fit territory, the main forces had returned safely. 2 knights clinked their wine glasses in celebration. After we finished suppressing the bandits, we headed back to the Fit domain, one said. To commemorate the event, Lord Fit hosted a grand feast. The great hall was filled with long tables overflowing with fine food and wine. Every member of the expedition was present, joyfully eating and drinking. Baron Phi stood with other members of the main force, watching the lively banquet. It had been a grueling mission, and miraculously, there were no casualties. Come to think of it, where's Osh? Someone asked. Ah, there he is. The celebration was only halfway through, and Osher was already tipsy, his face flushed red as he walked toward Ven. Ven entered the grand hall alongside Conrad, dressed in a refined black suit. He adjusted his tie and smiled at the crowd. Am I terribly late? Baron Phi grinned, slung an arm around Ven's shoulder, and handed him a glass of red wine. Not at all. You arrived just in time. Here, have some wine first. Ven accepted the glass, his eyes curiously scanning the room. Thank you, my lord. I didn't expect regular soldiers would be allowed to attend this banquet. Baron Phi looked over the crowd warmly. These are the people who defended this territory with their lives. Why would status matter? He cleared his throat. Speaking of those bandits, weren't they far too dangerous to be simple highwaymen? Ven sipped his wine and looked at the Baron. They were definitely unlike any bandits I've encountered before. He recalled Baza and Binnen. With their abilities, they could have made a living doing anything else. They didn't need to turn to crime. The Baron nodded and took a document from his steward. You're not wrong. Take a look at this. It might help you understand. According to their investigation, the 2 bandits were wanted criminals. Their faces appeared on wanted posters. Once celebrated gold-ranked adventurers, they had murdered their comrades about a year or 2 ago and vanished. Eventually, they resurfaced here as bandits. Next to the documents lay Baron Phi's family crest and a gold adventurer's necklace. Gold rank, 4th highest among adventurers, was a title earned through countless achievements. As Ven examined the posters, he realized why there was a 10 million cran bounty on them. He thought to himself, is that why the Lord looks so pleased? Without me, that operation could have been a disaster. Ven glanced at the Baron in surprise. Baron Phi gazed at him with glittering eyes, filled with what looked like admiration, though Ven couldn't understand why. After a brief silence, Ven asked, Why are you looking at me like that? The Baron beamed. You didn't just defeat the bandits and avenge fallen adventurers. You also helped wipe out the monsters. Even the Adventurers Guild sent their thanks upon learning you were the one responsible. You've become the savior of this land. The steward beside him had to restrain the excited Baron to prevent him from doing anything too undignified. My lord, please compose yourself. Ven turned away, a bit embarrassed. It's nothing, really. I think you've had a bit too much to drink. The Baron cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. Regardless, thanks to you, the civilians who were kidnapped were rescued. And now, we can hold proper funerals for those who were lost. We owe you deeply. He and the others raised their glasses high. To Osher, the mage who saved the Fit domain. Everyone followed suit, echoing the toast loudly. To Lord Osher. The party atmosphere was worlds apart from the coldness of the magic tower. Peric was already passed out drunk, slumped over the table. Meanwhile, the Hia brothers next to him remained completely sober. It was a celebration where status didn't matter. Everyone enjoyed the feast as equals. A beautiful maid boldly approached Verdun and confessed her admiration, but he gently turned her down. From afar, Baron Fit and Conrad watched him with amused smiles. This place, full of warmth and sincerity, was one Ven had come to cherish dearly. For the first time since fleeing the magic tower, Bar, now sober, put his arm around Ven's shoulder and vowed to drink him under the table. Ven could only respond with a genuine smile. Whether it was the alcohol or something else, he felt a rare happiness, completely unaware of the looming disaster caused by the collapse of the Bohema magic tower. Ravelin had rushed back upon hearing the news. Standing in front of the tower, she breathed a sigh of relief. It's still standing. So it was just a rumor. Ravelin, you've just returned from Verant? A tower staff member asked upon spotting her. Yes, she replied, smiling. I heard the energy core had gone out of control and the whole area was flattened. I'm so relieved to see it's not as bad as I feared. The man hesitated. All right. The building is under repair, thanks to that person. She turned to search the crowd. By the way, where's Ven? Him. If you're looking for Ven, he's... The man pointed toward a crowd gathered around a large board. Pinned to it was a list of the missing. Her eyes widened in shock. Ven's name and photo were among them. No, this can't be. There were more photos. Faces of others missing. But her eyes locked onto Ven's. Ven? The notice read, missing, 31. Ven is presumed to have been exposed to unstable magic energy while assisting in the energy chamber. No remains have been recovered. Tears welled in Rovalin's eyes as she recalled their final conversation. You said you were going to study in Virant, right? Only top-tier prodigies are given that chance. Ven had smiled at her. Congrats. Stay safe out there. Was that the last time? She had stayed behind, watching him smile by the window. That image, now like shattered glass, felt forever out of reach. I don't want to say goodbye like this. Her magical energy surged uncontrollably. Stones and debris lifted around her. Her grief erupted. Stop it. A hand rested gently on her head. It was the Tower Master. There's nothing anger can change, he said softly. Master Van Dex. Tears streaming down her face, Rovalin looked at him. He took off his cloak and placed it around her shoulders. What really happened? She asked through sobs. Exactly what you see, he said. While the senior mages were away for the festival, the energy core spiraled out of control. The on-duty supervisor and every mage in the central chamber were annihilated. All stored research, documents, and knowledge were lost. He clenched his fists, eyes filled with sorrow. Even the treasury's protective wards were damaged. Countless magical texts and ancient relics gone. It's a loss we can't measure. But the worst part, he added, was the disappearance of Experiment 77. Ven was found chained in the center of the lab, covered in blood. Ancient runes stained the floor. If only his brain were intact, we might have salvaged the data, he said grimly, placing a hand on Rovalin's shoulder. But at least we can seek justice. He revealed a red upside-down triangle pendant with a skull. We found this while tracing the one responsible. Blacker? Rovalin whispered. A secret organization. Hooded figures. Blood-red triangles. An all-seeing eye atop their hoods. They used magic not for study, but domination. I don't know how they infiltrated the tower, the master admitted. But they're clearly behind the disaster. He looked at her solemnly. To honor the victims, I'm forming a task force. There's a position for you, Rovalin. She clenched her fist, crushing the pendant. Her eyes burned with resolve. The answer was already obvious. Rovalin stood up, his eyes brimming with killing intent. A few days later, at the Adventurers Guild headquarters in the Fit territory. Have you been waiting long, sir? A guild staff member asked hesitantly. First, regarding the recent incident, I would like to sincerely apologize to you, Sir ASHR, he continued. Den calmly sipped his tea, rubbing his hands together slowly. I evaluated the threat level of that orc at the highest possible danger rating, and even deployed a gold-ranked adventurer to handle it. Yet things still turned out the way they did. The guild staff looked devastated as he spoke. It's all right, Den replied casually. It was merely an unfortunate coincidence. The man wiped the sweat from his forehead, clearly relieved. Thank you for your understanding, sir. Here is the reward certificate for your efforts in suppressing the incident. He handed over a document, which included the initial subjugation fee, a danger level bonus, and an additional reward for retrieving the corpse of the new orc variant. Den took the paper and glanced at the total, 24 million elg. After taxes, it came down to 12 million elg. The staff member quickly explained, I'm not sure if you're aware, sir, but non-members of the guild automatically have half their reward deducted, without exception. It's imperial law. No tax exemption allowed. If we break protocol, we could be charged with tax evasion or corruption. He nervously rubbed his hands together again. However, there is one and only one legal way to avoid the tax. Den raised an eyebrow. You mean, I'd have to register as an adventurer? The staff member lit up with excitement. Exactly. And because of your special case, you'd start directly at silver rank. The higher your rank, the lower the tax rate. Den fell silent, contemplating. Becoming an adventurer came with certain restrictions on future actions. But the staff eagerly encouraged him. All you need to do is sign right here, sir. Den set his teacup down. To me, there's something far more important than money right now. He placed his hand on the application form with a calm smile. All right then, let's do it this way. I must grow stronger, so I can have my revenge.